Chapter 576 1 on 10. Getting the army to retreat was but one of his objectives. The other objective was targeted at the Holy Ghost Church. Yes. The Holy Ghost Church was their common enemy. However, targeting the Holy Ghost Church now was something that conflicted with Juzi's plan. However, Hua Yuao could no longer be bothered with this. Now that he was in front of so many people, he had no choice. Hua Yuao, I can't believe you are foolish enough to attempt to challenge 10 of my people just by yourself. We definitely have no qualms betting with you. However, it doesn't seem to be fair, does it? If we were to lose, our entire army has to retreat. And if you were to lose, it will just be the loss of a single life. Aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? I don't think you're quite there yet. Juzi sneered. Hua Yuao really wanted to give Juzi a big thumbs up for the great teamwork she was showing. It was really incredible for her to be able to instantly understand what he meant despite the tension in the atmosphere. The main targets Hua Yuao had in mind were naturally the evil soul masters from the Holy Ghost Church. The safety of the Sun Moon Empire's army was definitely not enough to motivate the evil soul masters to act. After all, those evil soul masters would prefer to witness more deaths so they could capture the spirits to improve their cultivation. Hence, Hua Yuao knew he needed something to attract all of them, and he naturally needed to produce these things himself. Hua Yuao nodded and said, I definitely can't be compared with your entire army. However, I can offer a few more things on top of my life. As he spoke, a huge black door opened beside him, following which, a massive creature crept out from the huge door. After the massive creature appeared, countless observers could not help but gasp in fear. What is that? It was a gigantic bear which over 50 meters tall that was radiating an insanely frightening aura. Its fur was somehow grey, while its eyes were blood red. It seemed as though there were flames burning in its eyes. Following which, Hua Yuao retrieved a dagger from his hand. It was a dagger whose blade was radiating an icy blue color. The dagger flew up into the sky, and instantly, the surrounding temperature plunged. The link's defensive barrier formed by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, which was quite a distance away, started to fade. Snowflakes also started to fall from the sky. If Xie Xuangan were here, he might have been able to connect the dots after seeing the black door and the morning dew dagger Hua Yuao had just released. Unfortunately, he had yet to return. Everything was within Hua Yuao's expectations and under his control. Jiangxi Ice Bear King, Erbai, and the Sigh of the Frozen Goddess, morning dew dagger. These two items are the most precious items I have. This dagger is a godly weapon. If not for it, I would not have been able to block Detian's blow. Let me show you what it can do. As he spoke, the morning dew dagger suddenly turned vertical in midair before it transformed into a blue light that shot straight towards the linked defensive barrier set up by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. Before Juzi even gave the order, the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion instinctively enhanced the protective soul barrier to its maximum defensive potential. However, the fiery red glow on the linked defensive barrier immediately faded the moment the dagger came into contact with it. The entire barrier turned dark blue instead before a series of loud explosive noises could be heard. A deep cut could be seen on the outer side of the linked defensive barrier. The barrier was a hair's breadth from being torn open by the dagger. It was important to note that this was a full power linked defensive barrier which was established by a Beast Lord rank Soul Engineer Legion. The morning dew dagger was actually able to create such an effect just from a gentle tap. The most frightening thing was how it was able to overcome its elemental disadvantage. Its fierce and extreme coldness was actually able to penetrate the protective soul barrier and be felt by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineers. The fiery red color radiating from their bodies became a lot fainter. They could not believe that a single dagger was able to achieve so much. After retracting his morning dew dagger, Hua Yuao spoke plainly. As for my pet over here, I believe there's no need for me to explain much. Those who dabble in spirits and spectral matters should naturally understand what it is. Isn't that right, Leader Zhongli Wu? I know you're scrutinizing it. Why don't you come out? A purple black light suddenly soared into the sky. Zhongli Wu, the leader of the Holy Ghost Church, had revealed his figure in the air. His eyes revealed the greed here for Erbai. He didn't even bother to look at Hua Yuao as his eyes were completely focused on Erbai's body. Even as the leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhongli Wu was unable to tell how Hua Yuao was able to transform such a powerful soul beast into a spectral creature. However, he was absolutely sure that this spectral creature was likely to be stronger than it was in its previous life. It must have been a savage beast in its past life in order to release such a powerful aura. Turning savage beasts into spectral puppets had always been one of Zhongli Wu's goals. Previously, when he went after Detian, he was hoping to turn Detian into his puppet. If he were to succeed, he believed he would become the strongest individual in the entire world. Unfortunately, the beast god's power had far exceeded these expectations, and the Holy Ghost Church had sustained huge losses in their attempt to hunt the beast god down. Even Zhongli Wu was injured during the attempt, and he had only barely recovered after taking a rest. The only reason why they were able to flee from the Great Stardow Forest was that the beast god was already injured, and they were still sufficiently sensible to flee before their situation worsened. If not, their bodies might have had to stay within the Great Stardow Forest forever. The forces within the Great Stardow Forest were far more powerful than they had imagined. Military supervisor Juzi looked at Zhongli Wu as though she was asking him for advice. As the military supervisor, Zhongli Wu had a lot of authority in the army. He was not in charge of anyone, but was supposed to supervise Juzi. Whenever Juzi had to make an important decision, she needed to get his approval. A military retreat was an example of an important decision. Zhongli Wu's greed was apparent as he nodded and said, I think what he is offering is sufficiently precious. After finishing his sentence, he did not even look at Hua Yuao as he turned around and flew down to the Sun Moon Empire camp. Even though his answer was not exactly direct, Zhongli Wu had undoubtedly expressed his opinion. Just as Juzi wanted to talk to Hua Yuao, a purple black light suddenly flashed, and Zhongli Wu had returned. He shot a peculiar look at Hua Yuao and said, Hua Yuao, if you were to lose, we can also choose not to kill you. As long as you join my Holy Ghost Church, I can spare your life. Even though Hua Yuao's words might have sounded very offensive in the ears of others, they were nothing for the leader of the Holy Ghost Church. On top of that, after seeing how Hua Yuao was able to showcase Erbai and hearing some of the stories about him, he was already certain that Hua Yuao must possess some secrets about evil soul masters. He not only wanted to know all of these secrets, but also nurture Hua Yuao into a member of the Holy Ghost Church. With the talents that he possessed, he felt that he might have a chance of becoming a holy son of the Holy Ghost Church. It would definitely be a great blow to Shrek Academy if the dragon god Douluo's disciple were to join the Holy Ghost Church. Zhongli Wu was not in the least bit worried about whether Hua Yuao really wanted to join the Holy Ghost Church. He was confident of transforming any person, no matter what type of person he or she was, into an evil soul master. Hua Yuao smiled at Zhongli Wu and said, sure, as long as all of you can defeat me, I am perfectly fine with joining the Holy Ghost Church. After all, I am no longer part of any organization. Zhongli Wu also smiled. In fact, he was very happy. Then I guess we have a promise. Juzi watched the sly foxes who were smiling before her and couldn't help but wonder who was actually falling into the other person's trap. Zhongli Wu, should I start mourning for you now? Zhongli Wu was naturally unaware of what Juzi was thinking as he turned around and flew back to the camp. Juzi exclaimed, all right, since our military supervisor has already agreed to this gamble, I shall agree to it as well. The battle shall begin in 2 hours' time at the space between our camp and Shrek City. The victor will be decided after 10 rounds of battle. Hua Yuao smiled, but didn't say anything. He merely looked Juzi in the eye, following which, he grabbed Tang Wutong's hand and flew towards the flat ground behind them. The virtual image of him which he had created in the air disappeared after he left, following which, Erbai and the morning dew dagger also turned into light that vanished into thin air. The Sun Moon Empire army and Shrek City were about 45 kilometers apart. The midpoint between these two locations was hence about 22 kilometers or so. It was undoubtedly the safest distance for both parties, as well as the fairest location to conduct the battle. After landing on the ground, Hua Yuao crossed his legs and sat down before beginning to meditate. Tang Wutong merely stood behind him silently as she kept watch over him. Meanwhile, Juzi brought the members of her Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion into the camp. Very soon, a meeting was held within the commander's tent. Every soldier and commander from the Sun Moon Empire had witnessed what had happened in the sky. Hence, Juzi did not need to introduce the challenge to the people present. After everyone had gathered in the tent, she immediately fired 2 questions at the rest of them. Hua Yuao has challenged our army. After receiving approval from the military supervisor, supervisor, we have decided to accept his challenge. In that case, we now have two problems before us. First, who are the 10 people who should represent us? Second, who should keep the items that Hua Yuao has promised to give up if he were to lose the challenge? Zhongli Wu was sitting next to Ju Zi. When she raised these two questions, he glanced at her before his brows furrowed together. No one knew what he was thinking about. There were many powerful individuals within the commander's tent. The elite troops from the Sun Moon Empire were all present in this camp. Other than the powerful evil soul masters, several Class 9 soul engineers were also present, and this included several powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire's Imperial Consecration Hall. One of the Class 9 soul engineers stepped forward and said, "The winnings should naturally belong to the Empire. I am willing to fight for the Empire and get rid of that haughty rascal." Another Class 9 soul engineer nodded in approval. These Class 9 soul engineers were not idiots. After seeing Zhongli Wu fly up into the sky, they could tell that he was very much attracted by Obai. They would definitely not allow him to lay his hands on the Ice Bear King. Hence, they were all expressing their disagreement. At the same time, these Class 9 soul engineers were all expressing their interest to put their lives on the line for the Empire to fight Hua Yuao. Then, Ju Zi looked over to Zhongli Wu and asked, "Military supervisor, what do you think about this?" Zhongli Wu said, "Logically speaking, what they have said is entirely correct. All war spoils should be kept by the Empire." As he finished his sentence, he scanned the Class 9 soul engineers with his cold gaze. The Class 9 soul engineers who fell under his gaze revealed an awkward expression. Even though they were all extremely powerful, they were still a little fearful of the leader of the Holy Ghost Church. However, it was within everyone's expectation that Zhongli Wu would not stop at that sentence. Since Hua Yuao dares to challenge us, he must possess some special abilities. He is known to be adept at concealing himself, and seems to possess extremely powerful fighting abilities. He can also evade attacks from soul tools extremely well. Hence, it might be better for soul masters to go up against him rather than soul engineers. From the soul power fluctuations he has exhibited so far, I don't think he has become a transcendent Douluo. After all, he is only a bit more than 20 years old. Among the two items which he has shown us, the short dagger is an ice-type godly weapon. I believe everyone has seen how powerful it is, and I agree that it should belong to the Empire. As for the other item, I am certain that it is a spectral creature. It doesn't have any direct use for our country. I believe that it can only be controlled by the Holy Ghost Church. We are the only ones capable of harnessing its power for the betterment of the Empire. One of the Class 9 soul engineers who was formerly addressed by Ju Zi as Elder Su stood out and exclaimed, "Does this mean that our military supervisor plans to keep the war spoils for himself?" Zhongli Wu stood up straight as he attempted to intimidate the others with his imposing figure. "Of course I will not be taking the spectral creature without contributing anything. I believe everyone here treasures his or her life a lot. No one would willingly put their lives on the line to fight to the death with Hua Yuao. In that case, why not allow the Holy Ghost Church to be the main fighting force for the challenge against Hua Yuao? As long as we can defeat him, it should make sense for us to take away one of the items which are not directly useful for the country. Isn't that right, Marshal?" He did not even look the Class 9 soul engineers in the eyes as he turned around to look at Ju Zi. Ju Zi looked at Zhongli Wu as a thought formed in her head. You have really made a brilliant move this time around. Everything seems to be going according to your plans. It seems like you have predicted what Zhongli Wu would do. If not, you would never have flashed that item to tempt him. In that case, there's no reason why I shouldn't assist you to take on our common enemy. However, are you really confident that you can defeat them? As Ju Zi thought about it, she nodded gently. All right. Since the military supervisor has agreed to take on this responsibility, I shall hand this battle over to him. However, this battle concerns the pride of our army. At the same time, it also concerns the arrangement of our military strategy. Hence, there is no room for failure. Military supervisor, are you ready to receive an official military order? Huh? Zhongli Wu was caught off guard by Ju Zi's words. An official military order. What was an official military order? When a person did not manage to achieve what was stated in an official military order, he or she would have to be punished by military law. This was something that was usually given only for tasks which were extremely important. Zhongli Wu did not expect Ju Zi to ask him to receive an official military order. It was apparent that she did not want him to lay his hands on the powerful spectral creature. However, Zhongli Wu was not overly concerned about receiving an official military order. After all, Hua Yuao was so much younger than him. He felt that he had been foolish to challenge them. In fact, he believed that it was laughable for him to propose such a battle format. Zhongli Wu felt that Hua Yuao would not stand a chance against the power of the Holy Ghost Church. If the Holy Ghost Church were to fail, he believed he would have failed as their leader. Under the intense scrutiny of the surrounding Class 9 soul engineers, Zhongli Wu nodded slowly and said, "Sure, I will now take on your official military order. I am willing to be punished by military law if I fail to defeat Hua Yuao with my people from the Holy Ghost Church." Very soon, under the supervision of the other people in the tent, Zhongli Wu penned down the official military order. Even as the imperial tutor and the military supervisor, he could not amend it once it had been issued. No one was exempted from this rule. Ju Zi nodded and said, "All right. In that case, I wish you good luck, and that you will return victorious." Humph. Zhongli Wu released an angry grunt as he waved his sleeve and left the commander's tent furiously, following which, the evil soul masters which had followed him into the tent left behind him. After watching him leave, Elder Su and the other Class 9 soul engineers quickly crowded over to Ju Zi's side. Elder Su said, "Marshal, are we really going to allow those evil soul masters to deal with Hua Yuao? The aura released by the spectral creature is really frightening. Even though we don't know where it comes from, the Holy Ghost Church will definitely become a lot stronger if it were to fall into Zhongli Wu's hands." The other Class 9 soul engineers were also visibly worried about the possible disaster that could happen. Ju Zi waved her hand and replied plainly, "Hua Yuao is a smart person. After all, he is the disciple of Mu Men, the youngest member of the Shrek Academy's Sea Gods Pavilion, and also the heir to the Sea Gods Pavilion. Do you all think that an intelligent person like him would commit to a suicidal situation? Even if a conflict were to occur between him and the Academy, he would never do something like that. Besides, I could tell from the way he conversed with me today how assured he was about his chances. In that case, he must have something up his sleeve to be so confident. Since the military supervisor is so enthusiastic about the whole challenge, I felt that there would be no harm for him to give it a try. After all, he probably doesn't have enough people to form the tendon team. If he can't pull it off, we will figure out a way to solve the problem. And if he were to somehow win, we will also figure something out." After hearing what she said, the powerful soul engineers went silent. Ju Zi's passive and somewhat conservative attitude was not exactly a bad option for the current situation. Hua Yuao sat quietly on the expansive plains between the Sun Moon Empire camp and Shrek City. The soul power in his body was fluctuating in a sustained and stable manner. However, even though Tang Wutong was standing right beside him, she was unable to detect even a single bit of the soul power fluctuations from his body. This was why his two soul cores were so scary. Hua Yuao was able to rely on his soul cores to compress all of his soul power into tiny spirals in his body. These spirals were the result of a perfect fusion between spiritual power and soul power. His soul cores would only absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth from his surroundings, and would definitely not release any energy easily. Hence, even Zhongli Wu was unable to tell exactly how powerful Hua Yuao was. He could only make a guess from his breathing that Hua Yuao had not become a transcendent Douluo. Yes, Hua Yuao might not have truly attained the transcendent Douluo rank. However, he had twin martial souls and a second soul core. His rank 93 soul power was not something that any other rank 93 titled Douluo could match. The icy war god's armor was already on his body. The human-shaped soul tool was able to keep all of its essence in its interior, and did not release a single bit of ultimate ice aura into the surrounding air. Hence, Hua Yuao's surroundings appeared to be frighteningly quiet. Going 1 against 10 was something that had never happened before in the world of soul masters. Hua Yuao was like a rash young man who had acted on an impulse after running out of options. Was he really going to end his life in such a violent manner? On top of the city wall which surrounded Shrek City, the elders from the Sea Gods Pavilion had all arrived. The higher-ups from the Tang Sect had also just arrived. Even Bei Bei did not know what Hua Yuao was intending to do, and now, there was already no one who could stop him from continuing what he had planned. Tang squeezed Bei Bei's hand and whispered, "Bei Bei, do you think Yuao can really do it?" Bei Bei nodded fervently. He can definitely do it. Since he has already suggested it to them, he must be able to do it. We must believe in him. Yuao definitely possesses the ability to do it. He is only doing all of this to force the Sun Moon Empire army to retreat. He would not have done it if he were not confident of pulling it off. At the same time, he probably wants to take advantage of this battle to take down some of the more powerful individuals within the Sun Moon Empire. Tang Yao's worries did not seem to have lessened by Bei Bei's words. However, why do I feel that he is not fully confident that he will be able to triumph over all of them? It feels like he is putting himself into an extremely dangerous situation. Elder Sun, who was not too far from both of them, overheard what Tang said. He turned his head and nodded. He said, that's right. He wants to put himself into a suicidal situation. He wants to be reborn after dying. I am sure he knows what he's doing, even though I don't know exactly what his plan is. However, I believe that improving his own cultivation is one of his objectives. There is this saying that there will be a huge amount of fear when one is placed in a life and death situation. Hua Yuao wants to improve himself by putting himself under immense pressure and fear. He is very different from any other normal titled Douluo, because he already possesses his second soul core. This grants him the ability to grow and improve rapidly. He is yearning for power to become stronger and change the current situation on the battlefield. That is why he is making this decision. He wants to be stimulated by battle to activate his potential and become stronger. This would definitely speed up the process of him becoming a transcendent Douluo. I don't think he has even considered the possibility of failure. On top of that, this is probably not his only objective. He must have made plans for something else too. If he were to successfully triumph over the 10 people, he would definitely attain a new level of understanding of his abilities and become a lot stronger. In fact, he might even be able to push for transcendent Douluo directly. Yes, only Elderson was qualified to comment about Hua Yuao. This was because he was the only other person present who had 2 soul cores. However, Hua Yuao had formed his second soul core from the yin-yang complement technique, whereas Elderson had formed his from the resonance technique. After gaining his second soul core, Elderson did not only find his abilities greatly enhanced, but also saw the true powerful effects of a second soul core. The enhancement did not just stop at the compression of soul power, but it also increased his potential to new heights. Elderson was thinking about the possibilities Hua Yuao would unlock if he were to successfully form his third soul core when he became an ultimate Douluo rank after perfecting his second soul core. When that happened, Hua Yuao would truly become one of the most outstanding soul masters ever. At the same time, he would definitely be able to overcome the limits imposed by this world. Even if he were not able to inherit a godly seat, he should be free from the restrictions at rank 99 once he formed his third soul core. At the end of the day, all of the above were just guesses made by Elderson. However, those guesses were what he hoped Hua Yuao could achieve. Of course, he knew how hard forming the third soul core would be after experiencing the challenge of forming his second soul core. Yuao. Do you really have to push yourself so hard to become stronger? Was this really what Hua Yuao had planned? No, it was not entirely true. Just as Elderson had accurately predicted, Hua Yuao already had a complete plan. Improving himself was indeed one of the important parts of the plan. However, he did not intend to put his life on the line just to force some sort of breakthrough. Instead, he wanted to gain a better understanding of the new abilities he had just acquired by fighting in a life and death situation. It had already been a few days since he had formed his second soul core with the yin-yang complement technique. However, he still had not fully understood the capabilities of his second soul core. By forcing himself to fight with powerful cultivators, he would be able to understand the intricacies behind his second soul core as soon as possible. He was the second being in the world to possess a second soul core formed from the yin-yang complement technique. The first being was the beast god. Even though Ditian was able to take on human form, it was ultimately a soul beast. Hua Yuao was indisputably the first human to form his second soul core with the yin-yang complement technique. Hence, no one could teach him how to use his second soul core, or how powerful his second soul core actually was. Hence, he had to explore all of these by himself. If Hua Yuao had enough time, he would definitely have chosen to explore its capabilities in a more rigorous and slower manner. That would be the ideal way to prepare himself to take on the challenge to become a god in the future. However, time was definitely a luxury for him now. Hence, he had no choice but to agitate his body with battles to see what capabilities he now possessed after forming his second soul core. It was the fastest way for him to accurately determine how much power he possessed. The greater the adversity, the more potential he could try to squeeze from his body. This was something he had learned when he had first participated in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. Compared to back then, his powers and abilities had grown exponentially. However, Hua Yuao still believed that putting oneself under immense pressure was the best way to learn more about one's abilities regardless of one's current standing. Very soon, 2 hours passed, and it was almost time for the battle. Near contingents of troops started to move out from the Sun Moon Empire camp. There were not many people who left their military camp. There were less than 1,000 people in total. However, all of them were soul engineers who were fully armed. They had activated their linked defensive barriers as they started to head towards Hua Yuao, who was roughly 22 kilometers away from them. These contingents were surrounding a group of powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire. Shrek City also opened their gates. Even though Hua Yuao had seemed to cut off his connections with the academy, Elderson had his own reasons for dispatching some of his forces. After all, it was not possible for the academy to sit and wait as the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineers advanced closer to the city. Shrek City seemed to have only sent soul masters into the air. In fact, they sent more than 1,000 soul masters who were all at least soul sages into the air. The ones who were flying at the front of this contingent were the elders of the Sea Gods Pavilion and the elite cultivators from the 3 empires. None of them held any bad feelings towards Hua Yuao, because they could not even hear what he had said to the Sun Moon Empire army. Elderson only informed them of how Hua Yuao had planned to take on 10 different individuals to solve their current predicament. Hua Yuao was a hero in everyone's eyes. The way both parties sent out a force of close to 1,000 individuals towards the battleground made it seem as though everything had been planned in advance. If the battle was conducted in a one-on-one fashion, the Sun Moon Empire would have no chance of beating Shrek Academy even if they were to double the number of people they had. However, this was ultimately war. In a battle which included soul engineers, concepts about one-on-one battles were non-existent. Elderson brought his group of people to a position which was roughly 500 meters from Hua Yuao before stopping. He also did not allow anyone to go over and interact with him. All they did was line themselves up and watch the upcoming battle silently. At this crucial moment, Elderson did not wish for anyone to disturb Hua Yuao. The Sun Moon Empire troops also stopped 500 meters away from Hua Yuao. This meant that they were about 1,000 meters away from Elderson and the powerful cultivators of Shrek Academy. A distance of a single kilometer separated both parties. A battle, which would definitely go down in history as one of the most important battles in the world of Soul Masters, was about to take place in the space between these parties. Juzi was still looking brilliant as ever in her armor. After her subordinate brought a huge chair over, she sat down in the chair as she gazed at Hua Yuao. As the commander of the 3 armies, she was the only person here who was qualified to sit down. Even Zhongli Wu, the military supervisor, was not entitled to do so. Zhongli Wu stared coldly at Hua Yuao as a light flickered in his eyes. It was unclear what was on his mind. However, the aura he was radiating was becoming more and more intense by the minute. Even though Hua Yuao was still meditating, he could sense the series of transformations occurring around him. However, he chose to ignore all of these movements. Hua Yuao, let the 10 battles begin. Zhongli Wu announced as his low but thunderous voice traveled towards Hua Yuao. It was only after hearing Zhongli Wu's words that Hua Yuao finally opened his eyes slowly. At the instant when Hua Yuao opened his eyes, Zhongli Wu felt his heartbeat faster. He saw a mystical pair of eyes before him. Hua Yuao's eyes were differently colored. One of them was a brilliant gold. Even though it did not radiate a particularly bright light, it seemed to possess the endless depth of the sun. His other eye was flickering with an azure blue light. It seemed to embody the vastness of the big blue ocean. The different colored lights in his eyes only lasted for a short while before they regained their original color. In fact, this entire transformation happened without him releasing any aura at all. However, this was sufficient to make the powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire wary of him. Just as Juzi had put it, courage was not enough to drive a person to challenge 10 people to a battle. It was important to note that this was not the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. There was an age limit in the tournament, which usually helped to ensure that competitors were of similar ranks. However, this was a matter of life and death on the battlefield. No one would hesitate to send his or her strongest members to battle. Hua Yuao was definitely going to be up against the most powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire. Even though the Death God Douluo, the Dragon Emperor Douluo, and the Sun Moon Empire's most powerful soul engineers were not present, they still possessed top-class power which even the Shrek Academy had to be wary of. Hua Yuao floated above the ground before standing up, following which, he turned around to nod in Tang Wutong's direction. Tang Wutong stared deeply into his eyes before stepping forward to hug him. She whispered something in his ear before walking back to where Elder Sun and the rest were. However, she did not join them, as she chose to observe Hua Yuao from 100 meters in front of Elder Sun and the rest. Hua Yuao stared at Zhongli Wu before looking at Juzi, who was sitting in her chair. He said, bring it on. Let's start with the first one. When Huo Yuao mentioned how he was ready to begin with the first one, Juzi could not help but think of the time she had spent with Huo Yuao at the Sun Moon Empire's Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. It was then that Huo Yuao had once challenged the powerful students of the academy. Back then, he also did not cower as he used his power and abilities to go up against those students. That was him, a powerful individual with heroic qualities, but also a soft heart. More than 10 years had passed, and he had grown to become one of the most powerful soul masters in the entire world. If he were able to win today's battle, he would undoubtedly become one of the Sun Moon Empire's biggest threats in the future. He would also naturally become a beacon of hope for the three other empires. This was destined to be a battle in which Huo Yuao would truly become famous. Even if he were to die, he would still be a hero of the three original empires of the Douluo continent. Juzi was overwhelmed by a multitude of feelings as she kept quiet. It seemed as though she had handed the entire battle over to Zhongli Wu. Zhongli Wu let out a cold grunt as he waved his hand. A black figure launched himself forward towards Huo Yuao from Zhongli Wu's side. This was a person who was wrapped tightly in his black cloak. There was no way one could see his appearance at all. He was like a cloud of black fog when he flew towards Huo Yuao. His aura was rapidly becoming stronger. The power of darkness within his aura was brimming with evil vibes as it exploded like a geyser. Even though he had only flown a few hundred meters, huge clusters of dark clouds had already gathered above his head. They seemed to be swarming towards Huo Yuao as they threatened to block all sunlight from reaching him. This person's name was Wu Yun. Even though he was not one of the 8 elders within the Holy Ghost Church, he was one of the most powerful soul masters within the Holy Ghost Church's Hall of Consecration. Actually, he was not a purebred evil soul master. He had been mistaken by others as an evil soul master and was, in fact, being hunted down by others because of his dark type martial soul. In a fit of anger, he killed all the people who were going after him and chose to join the Holy Ghost Church. After several years of cultivation, he finally became a true evil soul master. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.